All right, how much retirement income can I generate on $600,000 saved for retirement? That's what we're going to look at today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. Listen, I've got David. He's 60 years old. He's from Wyoming. He saved $600,000 for retirement. And he's asking me, hey, Drew, how much income, how much retirement income can I generate off of $600,000 saved for retirement? Now, we're going to look at a couple different factors. The first thing we're doing is we're going to do an analysis on the board. We're going to see if his can I retire scenario works. Can I retire at 60 with $600,000? We're going to see if that works. Secondly, we're going to jump into the financial EKG software. We're going to look at the different factors that might affect his retirement income, like taxes, like cash flows, vacations, things like that. What about inflation? What about monthly inflation? We're going to look at all that in the software, so make sure you watch to the end of the video. So let's look at this. We've got $600,000 saved for retirement. Social Security at 67 for David would be $2,800 a month. Now, his Social Security at 67 would be 100% of his full retirement benefit. He was born after the year 1960, so if he claimed at 62, he would only get 70% of his full retirement benefit. If he waits till 67, which we're going to do, he's going to get 100% of his full retirement benefit. And if he's an overachiever, a broccoli eater, he goes to 70, he'll get 124% of his full retirement benefit. Now, obviously, when we break it down in the software, we're going to look at each age to see which area makes it the most tax efficient for him, the optimization of his Social Security. So, Social Security at 67 is $2,800 a month. His expenses are $35,000 a year. Now, he has no debt. He's single, and his traveling is not something that he really necessarily wants to do. So his expenses, what I call his baseline expenses, are $35,000 a year. Now, we're going to look at inflation on that, but that's a very low cost of living. Now, he does live in a lower cost of living area of Wyoming, so $35,000, and single is a pretty good number. Now, what we're going to look at is how much income can we generate from $600,000. And what I like to think about is what I call the guardrail rule. Now, the guardrail rule is really simple. Think about driving down a road and think about the guardrails on each side of the road. The income that you need from your portfolio is the speed that you need to go on that road, right? So if you got to go 35 miles an hour, that's what your road, that's what your car needs to go. So our income distribution is our speed. If we go too fast, we may go over the guardrail. If we go too slow, we're not going to get to our destination on time. So with the guardrail, we're looking at, okay, $35,000 on $600,000 saved for retirement is a 5.8% distribution rate. Meaning, if he takes $35,000 annually from his $600,000, that's 5.8% of his retirement portfolio is coming out for retirement income. That's his distribution rate. Now, a solid distribution rate is somewhere between 4 and 6%. That's going to make your money last for 30 to 35 years. We would like that to be less, and that's going to happen when he starts kicking on Social Security. But he's 60, and we're going to wait 7 years before we start taking Social Security. So we're going to have that distribution rate, that 5.8% between 60 and 67 plus inflation. So that's only going to go up, or it could stay flat, or his distribution rate could go down depending on the market. So if the market goes down and he takes out 5.8%, and now he takes it out again the next year and his portfolio is less, it's a higher distribution rate, and vice versa if the market goes up. So what I like to look at is, okay, let's think about the investments that you can go into and what are the yields on those investments. Let's look at just some overall easy scenarios for YouTube. The S&P 500 right now, and let's use the Vanguard VOO, is yielding 1.8%. So if all your money was in the Vanguard S&P 500, you're going to get interest income of 1.8%. That's a far cry from the 5.8% that we need. Now, if you own the Vanguard overall bond fund, which is BND, the distribution yield, the 30-day SEC yield, is 4.24%. That's a little closer, but do we want all our money in the bond fund? Probably not, because now we eliminate growth. So if we do a 70-30 portfolio, 70% fixed income, 30% equity, we get a 3% yield. Now at 60, is a 70-30 mix right for him? I don't know yet. We've got to go through the analysis, but I want to show you this. If we're able to get a 3% yield on a 70-30 portfolio, and all we need is 5.8%, you take 3%, you subtract that from 5.8, that means our growth needs to be 2.8%. So our 70-30 portfolio only needs to grow annually 2.8% without dividends and interest. So we're going to get 3% in interest. The portfolio has to appreciate 2.8%, and right now that puts us at 5.8%. You see how simple this is? Instead of saying, how much income can I get? Look at it in reverse. How much do I need? What's the speed that I need to go to generate that income? Guardrail rule. Because if we try to get 9 and 10% interest on this, he might be going too fast, might be taking too much risk with his portfolio, which would make him drive off the road. And if he stays too conservative, we're not going to be able to generate a decent amount of interest, so the portfolio performance is going to have to make that up, and we're not going to get there. So we've got to determine what our distribution rate is and what the speed of our retirement portfolio needs to go, which is the guardrail rule. Okay, so let's look at this. Can I retire at 60 with $600,000 saved for retirement? Now remember, $2,800 is going to be our Social Security at 67. $35,000 is our annual expenses. This is David. He's retiring. He lives in Wyoming. All right. Is that Big Sky Country? No, that's Montana. I need Wyoming. If you live in Wyoming, give me the state theme or the state, whatever you say in your state, in the comments section below. So we've got $600,000. We need $2,916 per month. That's $35,000 a year. We're going to do a portfolio growth rate of 4%. Now remember, he needs a 5.8% distribution rate off his money. But David is a very conservative investor. So what we're going to do is we're looking to get 5.8%, but we're going to project 4%. Because again, we're trying to align his investments, his guardrail rule, with his risk profile. How much risk does he want to take? So 4% is our rate of return, 3% is inflation. So this $2,916 is going to have inflation on it every year. And we're going to get in the software at the end of this scenario. I'm going to show you how we do that on a monthly basis. So from 60 to 67, his $600,000 goes to $450,000, taken out $2,916 a month with inflation. Okay, so we're at $450 at 67. Again, now Social Security is kicking on, same rate of return, which is 4%. 3% is our inflation rate, but now our expenses have gone to $3,740. From $2,916 to $3,740. And remember, I said he doesn't have a mortgage. So all of his expenses have inflation on them. Now, when we get into the software, if he were to have a mortgage and that was built into these expense factors, you wouldn't have inflation on that. If you got 15 years left on your mortgage at 60 and it's $2,000 a month, it's not going to grow at a 3% inflation rate. It's going to stay flat. It's a fixed rate unless you have an ARM loan, which is an adjustable rate mortgage. With a fixed rate of return, your inflation rate, your overall inflation rate on your expenses is going to be less. So you've really got to calculate that in. When I do a financial EKG for clients, I send them an advanced expense report because I want to see what your expenses are. Not that I care if you go to Starbucks or not. Listen, I go to Starbucks. It's right next door to Aldi. That's where I get my groceries. But what I want to look at is, what's the inflation on your health insurance premium? Because that's running at 9%. What's the inflation on your cost of clothing? Because that's different from the cost of food. Maybe you have a mortgage. Maybe you have fixed expenses like a car payment. Those expenses are not going to have the same inflation, so we've got to get a true inflation number. Again, we're working on the board first, then we go to the software. So $3,740 is our expenses, $2,800 our Social Security, so we need $940 at 67 on a monthly basis to live, okay, off of our portfolio. So from 67 to 77, we go from 450 to 483. We actually grow our money, okay? Now at 77, our expenses have grown from $3,740 to right about $5,000 a month. Our Social Security has grown from $2,800 to $3,300. That's with a 2.5% cost of living adjustment, which is the average for Social Security since the 1970s, which means we would need about $1,600 per month out of our $483,000 at 77. From 77 to 87, we go from 483 to 373. So we're less about $110,000. And actually in this scenario, we run out of money at about 95, I think, if we look at the software, which we're going to get into. So yes, can I retire at 60 with $600,000? And how much retirement income can I generate from that $600,000? That's what we just looked at. Now, let's go into the software to see what it looks like. All right, can I retire at 60 with $600,000? How much can a $600,000 portfolio generate in retirement income? So we just went through this on the board. So let's go through it in the software to get a little bit more detailed in this scenario. You ready? Let's do it. All right, so we've got David here, David Bantley. He's got $600,000 in assets, and what we're gonna look at is what we call a tax tracker optimization, meaning we wanna look at what is the most tax efficient options for David, okay? Now, David is retired and he's 60 years old. He used to make $90,000 a year, but he has kicked the bucket and now he is not working anymore. He's not kicked the bucket in the sense of dying, but he's kicked the bucket from his work. He lives in Wyoming. Now, his primary benefit for Social Security at 67 is $2,800. Now, obviously, we can adjust that. He could take it at 62, he could take it at 70, he could take it at 63, 64, 65. When we ran the Social Security optimization strategy for David, it made sense for him to take it at 67. And that's just because he's going to get 100% of his full retirement benefit. Now, we don't have any pensions. So for David, single guy, it's me, myself, and I. All of his retirement income, all of his retirement savings, all of his retirement is on him, which is why he called me to get him to retirement, through retirement, protect his ability to stay in retirement. If you want a financial EKG for you, in the description below is how to do that. Now, let's go to the assets. We've got a couple easy assets. We have an IRA that's worth $600,000. Now, he had a 401k, and once he got to 60, he rolled that 401k over into an IRA. He's got about $15,000 in the bank, and we have a Roth conversion account we just opened, which we're going to start putting some money into. Now, this is going to be at risk because we're going to put this into the market, but it's going to be a very conservative investment. Remember, David is a pretty conservative investor. Now, protected assets, he has his home, which is real estate, $325,000, and it's paid off. So he has no debt, okay? Really good scenario here so far. From a portfolio weighted average, we're going to earn 4% a year on our investment. So David's a conservative investor, so we're going to earn 4%. The bank's going to grow at 1%, and his Roth conversion account, we're going to grow at 6%. The reason we're going to do a little higher rate of return for his Roth conversion account is because now this money's tax-free, and since we've paid taxes on it, we want to try to have a little bit more growth to make up the taxes that we had to pay. As you can see, Dave doesn't have a lot of extra cash laying around. A lot of times when you do a Roth conversion, you want to have extra cash that you can use to pay the taxes. Well, in his case, we don't have that extra cash, so we've got to use his IRA to pay some of the taxes. So by doing so, we're losing right about 10% of that Roth conversion to taxes. So we're going to invest the money just slightly more slightly more for growth to try to get a little bit extra on it and make up those taxes, okay? So we're going to save this. So his overall portfolio weighted average is 3.93%. Remember, his distribution rate, he needs 5.8%. But that's if we want the money to never go down and be at the same amount it is at 100. But David's single, there's no dependents, he has no debt. So we don't have to try to earn all this income because it doesn't make sense to take that risk. All we need to do is make sure that the money lasts well into his 90s, okay? So let's look at this. One of the things I want to point out, the tax classification, this is really important. So what you can see currently, okay, so this is today. He's got $600,000 is qualified, meaning it's taxable, meaning when he goes to take retirement income out of that, he's going to pay taxes on that money. But here's what I want you to notice. We are doing a Roth conversion strategy for David. Legacy. That means when he dies, he gone, okay? Look at his legacy. It's 100% Roth. Now, that's great for his nieces and nephews because that's who's getting the money. But for David, what I'm going to show you is the retirement income that he's going to need later in life is going to be all tax-free. And how much of a blessing is that going to be if he needs long-term care or if he needs extra income for whatever? It's going to be tax-free instead of taxable. Because if it's taxable and he needs it for long-term care, you got to take out $20,000 a month for long-term care and it's taxable, now you got to take out $25,000. But if it's tax-free, you only have to take out the 20. Perfect. Okay, so let's look at this. Total portfolio value, $940,000. All right. So from an expense standpoint, $2,916 are his current monthly expenses. We're giving that a 3% inflation rate. Cash flows, we don't really have any cash flows outside of the Roth IRA transfers. So there are conversions. We're going to do 5 years of Roth conversions. So $21,588, $21,588, $21,588, $21,588, $21,000. So $21,588 is our conversion. So I want to show you 2024. So here we go. So here's what we got. We've got monthly cash flows of 0, meaning no money's coming in, but we have taxable withdrawals of $62,642. So what that is his monthly income that he needs to live off of plus the Roth conversions. So that puts him in the 22% bracket, but his projected federal rate is 9.67%. Okay, so 9.67% is his actual tax rate. I don't care about his bracket. I want to know what his actual tax rate is because you can see this. His gross income is $62,794. The deductions $13,850. Taxable income is $48,944. We have a progressive tax code, meaning that $48,944 is going to get taxed at different levels. Not all of it's in the 22% bracket. That's the mistake most people make. They say, "Oh, I'm going to get taxed. The 22% of my income is being taxed." No. A portion of it's getting taxed at 22%, but it's progressive up until that moment, okay? So we need to look at that and say, is it really 22% or what your actual effective rate is? And that's the determination for Roth conversions, okay? So if we go to retirement, what we'll see is, here's those Roth conversions, boom, 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 boom. But here's what I want you to notice. Here's Social Security kicking on at 67. Look at our portfolio. Now remember what our rate of return is. Our rate of return is like 3.94%. Not very high. And at 100, Dave's got $903, and look at it. It's all Roth. Now let's see at what point we lose all IRA money where. At 95 years old, he uses the last of his IRA money, and we get to a Roth, which is great. So at 95 years old, all of his money is Roth IRA, which is all tax-free. Now, obviously, what we could do is go in here and we could say, okay, in the year 2028, we still have $343,000 in IRA. We just have $136,000 in Roth at this point. Can we do more conversions? I pause here to tell you that in the year 2026, taxes are going to change. They're either going to revert back to the Obama era taxes, they're going to be extended, which is the Trump tax code, or they're going to be a whole new tax code. So what I tell David and what I tell all of my clients who are doing Roth conversion planning on, or we're doing IUL planning on, or we're doing whatever planning on, I say, listen, after this next 2 years, we might have to readjust our plans, which is why we want to do those quarterly and annual reviews, because we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to readjust based on where taxes are at. If they stay where they're at today, for David, we might be able to go and let's say, hey, let's do 5 more years of a Roth conversion and see what that does. But I don't know that. So I don't want to do all this work on projections if we don't know where taxes are going to be. So that's why we do the 5 years and just say, okay, based on the next 5 years, I think we're going to be okay, and this is what we can do. We can also go back to taxes, which is really nice. We can say, okay, let's adjust the brackets in the year 2026. Let's take them up 25%. So look at 2024, we're in the 9.67% effective rate. Go to the year, let's go to 2027. we jump up to the 13.74. Is that a big jump? Still, it's a pretty good tax bracket for him. 13.74 in 5 years. That's still pretty good. So in his case, we're going to look at these brackets and say, how much do they have to jump for us to stop doing Roth conversions? So let's get these back to normal here. So when you look at this, you go, okay, hey, at retirement age, I've got $903,000. Now I want to show you one more report. And I know this is a lot. Here's what I want to show you. Where are we at here? Here's tax optimization. And then I want to pull up, we've done a couple different scenarios for him. Here we go, retire early. Nope, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Here we go, 600K in assets. I want to show you this because this is really cool. Okay, so we've done all these different scenarios for David, but here's what I want to show you. So this is 600K in assets doing the Roth conversions. This is not doing Roth conversions. Just where he's at today, no Roth conversions. Look at 100, 903. Look at 100 here, $300,000. And you might be asking yourself, what's going on, Drew? Well, look at this. Lifetime taxation, doing the Roth conversions, $103,000. That means from 60 to 100, pays $103,000 in taxes. Over here, it's 187. Keep in mind, when you have IRA money, you got to take RMDs and you got to pay taxes. And that money goes out to Uncle Sam, and that brings down your overall portfolio value. And when you put that on a long-term scale, that's a lot of money, right? Compound interest, that's a lot of money. So, can I retire at 60 with $600,000? Well, if you're David, you sure can. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.